Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Steve Weideman. Today we commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe began its aerial assault in July 1940, with nearly twice the aircraft and aircrew as the Royal Air Force. Reich Marshal Hermann Göring believed he could wipe the RAF from the skies in 4 weeks, helping to pave the way for the planned German invasion of England. British and German aircraft clashed in the skies above England, and in August, German bombers began striking cities and civilian targets, marking the beginning of the Blitz. The turning point in the Battle of Britain came on the 15th September 1940. That morning, British coastal radar stations picked up dense formations of German bombers and fighter air escorts racing across the English Channel. Fighter Command scrambled 24 fighter squadrons to intercept them, and hundreds of aircraft locked in fierce aerial combat in the skies over Britain. Unable to defeat the RAF and facing with mounting losses that could not be replaced, the German invasion was cancelled and the Battle of Britain was won. That day was chosen to remember the significance of the Battle of Britain. While a majority of those who participated were Britons, Australians were also involved, flying operations with Fighter Command, Bomber Command and Coastal Command. Flight Lieutenant Pat Hughes of Cooma, New South Wales, with over 14 kills to his tally and among the top 10 leading aces of the time, flew in Fighter Command during the Battle of Britain. 35 Australians flew combat operations with Fighter Command also during the Battle of Britain, 10 of whom were killed in action. They were among the airmen immortalised by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill in his powerful tribute to the men of Fighter Command. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Today we pay our respects to the 40,000 Australian men and women who died as a result of their service during the Second World War and who are commemorated here on the Roll of Honour, and to the survivors who returned home. This evening we're honoured to welcome Mr John King, President, the Returned and Services League of Australia, ACT Branch, and Wing Commander Sharon Bown, National Vice President, Air Force Association. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting in 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Dean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Squadron leader Robert Wilton Bungey. Robert Bungey was born at Fullerton, South Australia on the 4th of October 1914, the son of Ernest and Ada Bungey. The family moved to Adelaide, suburb of Glenelg, soon after Robert's birth, and he grew up there, attending Glenelg Primary School and the Adelaide High School. Later, he went to work for Ajax Insurance, training as an assessor and attending night school. On the 15th of July 1936, at the age of 21, Robert Bungey joined the Royal Australian Air Force as a pilot trainee. After attending flying school at Point Cook, he chose to go to Britain to enlist in the RAF on short service commissions. Shortly after his arrival in August 1937, Bungey joined the Royal Air Force as a pilot officer. After attending flying school in Scotland in November 1937, Bungey was posted to number 226 Squadron, which was located in Oxfordshire and equipped with Ferry Battle light bombers. Towards the end of 1938, Bungey attended the School of Air Navigation, completing a navigation course while flying Arvo Arsons. After Germany's invasion of Poland, Britain declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September 1939. Bungey's squadron was deployed to France as part of the Advanced Air Strike Force. Because of fears of provoking German bombing of civilian targets, no operational sorties were flown, and what was known as the Phony War began. Bungey flew reconnaissance missions near German lines, and on the 8th of December, he was one of several pilots honoured to provide an escort for King George VI during his visit to France. By April 1940, Bungey's squadron was busily engaged in training for night missions. The German invasion of France and the Low Countries began in mid-May 1940, and the unit's aircraft was soon in action. Despite the danger of an invasion of England, in late June, number 226 Squadron was sent to Northern Ireland. Bungey enjoyed a week's leave yachting around the coast of Ireland and became engaged to Sybil Johnson. With the beginning of the Battle of Britain in July 1940, there was a shortage of trained fighter pilots. Bungey volunteered for fighter duty and was posted to number 145 Squadron in mid-August. This squadron was based in Tangier near the English Channel and equipped with Hurricanes. The unit flew operational patrols every day in October. On some days, 3 or 4 sorties were flown. On the 7th of November, Bungey was flying near the Isle of Wight when his patrol was attacked by Messerschmitts. 5 Hurricanes were shot down. Bungey was able to force land his aircraft in shallow water and scramble out to safety, injuring his knee in the process. The tempo of operations remained high throughout 1940, but with the end of the Battle of Britain in mid-September, enemy operations were curtailed. Bungey was promoted to Flight Lieutenant in January 1941, and the following month he took his last Hurricane flight. At that point, all of his flying would take place in Spitfires. On the 6th of April, he had an operation on his knee which prevented him from flying for a few months. In May, Bungey was promoted to Squadron Leader. He had been chosen to command number 452 Squadron, the first Australian fighter unit to be formed in Britain and the first Australian squadron equipped with Spitfires. After taking command of the squadron on the 10th of June 1941, by late September, Bungey had been recommended for the Distinguished Flying Cross. The recommendation for the award noted his earlier service and added, Bungey has been in command of 452 Squadron at this station since the 21st of July, and he has led the squadron in an exemplary manner on many operational flights over France. He has also led the wing on several occasions. Due to his personal leadership, the squadron has attained much success. Bungey's DFC was formally gazetted on the 7th of October. The following day, Bungey married Sybil Johnson. As the wedding took place during weekend leave, Bungey returned to flying duties a few days later. At the end of November, Bungey farewelled his wife, who set out from Liverpool to Australia, arriving in Adelaide in February 1942. On the 20th of March 1942, she gave birth to a son, Richard. Bungey held a variety of administrative postings at air bases for the remainder of 1942. At the start of 1943, he undertook night fighter training with number 51 Operational Training Unit. However, he was soon posted to Australia, taking up the position of Chief Flying Instructor with number 2 Operational Training Unit at Mildura. After sailing from Britain in mid-February, Bungey arrived home on the 5th of May 1943 and met his 14-month-old son for the first time. His arrival was noted in the press, and a luncheon in his honour was planned at Parliament House. Before this event could take place, Bungey's wife Sybil became ill with meningitis. On the 27th of May, she died after being admitted to a private hospital in Glenelg. 2 weeks later, on the 10th of June 1943, Robert Bungey took his son for a walk to the beach, where he took his own life. His son was injured, but recovered and was adopted by an uncle. Bungey is buried with full military honours alongside his wife in St Jude's Cemetery, Brighton, South Australia. He was 28 years old. His name is listed on the honour roll on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Squadron Leader Robert Wilton Bungey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.